Okay, so what I'm just going to do now is just talk a little bit about the process of going through your sketchbook research work that you've done so far, and within all of this stuff that you've been doing, trying to find several shapes, a little bit like the cross shape that we gave you to work on in the last brief. But this time the shapes are going to come not from sort of random symbols, but actually from things that you notice or that you see within the photographs that you've taken or the drawings that you've done. And I'm just going to describe the first stage of that. This is a kind of way of doing that, which takes some of the kind of difficulty out of it, I think. For this, you're going to need something that you can use as tracing paper. Now, if you've got tracing paper at home, that's fantastic. You can just go ahead and use that, and that's great, or any kind of thin paper that you can see through. A good alternative is this, which is something you might well have in your kitchen if you're into baking or your parents are. So this is just grease-proof baking paper. It comes on a roll like this. It's got quite a sort of slippery texture, which I'll talk about in a second, because it's quite important. You can only draw on it with certain things. But it's quite a good, useful little household alternative to tracing paper. So what I've done is I've cut a piece of greaseproof paper off here. And as you can see, if I lay that over my sketchbook, it's really, really easy to see through. It is hard to draw on this with certain things. You really need either a permanent marker pen or a pencil, and preferably that pencil needs to have quite a soft lead. So this is a 4B pencil. So this will kind of draw on the greaseproof paper quite well. So will the Sharpie pen. But if you're drawing with a permanent marker, just be a little bit careful. Even permanent marker doesn't kind of draw on this immediately. So if I just draw like that and then I rub it with my finger, look, it will smudge. Okay, so you've just got to make sure if you're using a permanent marker, you draw and then you let it dry for a few minutes before you actually touch it. Otherwise, you'll end up smudging your work and getting a mess on your hands. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this greaseproof paper, and I'm going to go through my sketchbook, and I'm going to just literally look for interesting shapes or combination of shapes. So for example, on here, on this page, quite like this little series of triangles here. So I might pick that out as one possible kind of theme, one possible sort of shape theme that I might use for the next stage of my project. So, you know, don't have to kind of like do this with any great kind of care at the moment. I'm just going to go over that, and then if I just turn to a clean page in my book and find one, you can see, you know, that gives me a potential set of shapes, and what I can then do is just shade those in. And again, you can use the marker pen, or you can use the pencil if that's what you decide to use. You shade those in, so you make that into a solid shape. It's not really an outline anymore, it's a solid shape. And what I want you to do is to kind of repeat that process several times through your book. So take that piece of tracing paper on a journey through your sketchbook, you know, noticing kind of other things. So here, this little drawing that I did, there's a series of kind of circles there, which I think makes quite an interesting possible starting point. So that might be my next one. And just go through like that and assemble several possibilities, several options on your greaseproof paper. This one I've done a little bit more with, okay? So here are the 3 triangles that you've just seen. Here are the 9 dots that I've just traced. This little series of blocks at the bottom came from one of my photographs. So this little set of windows along the bottom here, okay, that's me kind of tracing from those as well. And I also saw this, which I really, really like, this kind of sort of crazy line here. So I'm going to make that my last one, I think. Just trace that up a little bit. It's kind of pretty sort of haphazard and random, this one, but I kind of feel like there's something that's really quite good that could be done with that. And how would I go about colouring that in? That's a little bit more complicated. I might just leave that one as an outline. Okay. So then look what I've done, because this is the sort of second part, which is really, really important. Having got this set of shapes and having taken it out of the context of the original photograph, so this is no longer a series of windows in a building opposite the art gallery. Okay, this is now just 6 black rectangles in a row. Underneath, I've written things that this could represent, okay, or that this could be. So I've written windows, rhythms, because I quite like the idea that it's like this regular thing that repeats. Repetition, piano keys, dominoes, soldiers, riot shields, paving slabs, stepping stones. Okay, that is really, really important. Okay, that set of links, connections, possible ideas. At the side here, with my triangle one, I've done a similar thing with that. I was looking at it on its side and thinking, okay, so it's a little bit like fast forward, rewind, the idea of things kind of nose to tail in that way, like a traffic jam, or standing up that way. I thought it was a little bit like a cactus. And this one I've put counters, perforations, grid, drain, cover. And then I would kind of come up with something for this as well. This is my favourite. I'm quite looking forward to writing some ideas down for that. And then when that's done, what I'm then going to do is cut these little bits out, and I'm going to put them into my sketchbook as the next page in my sketchbook, and then choose one of these to be the stimulus for my next set of experimental drawings and photographs. Alright, so as promised, I've taken that piece of greaseproof paper, I've cut it up into smaller pieces, okay, and I've arranged those onto a page in my sketchbook. I've overlapped them a little bit. You can do that with anything transparent like greaseproof or tracing paper, so there's a little bit of overlapping, but that's okay. And what I've done is I've stuck them down with sellotape. I recommend sellotape for sticking greaseproof paper down with. Okay, if it's regular tracing paper, you can stick it down with glue stick or whatever. But with greaseproof, it really needs to be sellotape. Otherwise, it's just really, really difficult to get it to stick to anything. Normally, I'll be really, really clear. This is an exception. Normally, as far as I'm concerned, sellotape is the devil for art students. Okay, it's like a nasty material. But in this case, it's the right thing. Okay, so every dog has its day, and this is the day for sellotape. So I've arranged that stuff on there. There's one of my little pieces missing. Okay, I decided to put that. Whoops. On this page here. Okay, so the one with the 9 dots, I decided to put next to the drawing because there wasn't much else on that page, so I just put that there. It's really like whenever you're building your sketchbook up, it's really just about organising your thoughts. Organising your recordings, organising your ideas, so there's some kind of order and sense to them. Yeah, that's what this is about. So the next stage, after you've picked out your shapes, you've come up with your connecting concepts. The next thing is then to stick them all in and arrange them in your sketchbook. And you can see that what I've done here is I've made a decision. I've decided that my next responses, okay, so the next things that I do, okay, are going to be based on this, which was the last shape that I found. I decided to leave it just as an outline because what I thought this reminded me of were things like cracked ice, roads maybe viewed from the sky, a broken spider's web, a journey on a GPS, okay, so the idea of mapping a journey that somebody takes. And then I got to thinking, okay, maybe it's like mapping the movements of a Deliveroo rider as they traverse across the city on a night, delivering food to people locked down. Okay, so I had a whole bunch of ideas flowing from that, and that's going to be the next thing that I react to. So yeah, whatever your project is about, you're one of these, your version of this will look individual, distinctive and personal to you. That's the whole point. But that is the brief today to get to that stage. I'm also going to quickly on the video talk to you about what I've done since then, because if you get through this quite quickly, you may want to actually make a start on your responses. So I've got a few things just to show you in a second that relate to that as well. So these are a bunch of photographs that I've just taken looking around the boarding house and the art centre. Having chosen my shape, I went for the kind of cracked glass type, sort of wandering journey type line thing. So these are cracks in the wall, tree branches, spilled paint, little bits of sort of stitched thread through a piece of wood that I found. All sorts of different possible interpretations or visual links really to that initial pattern that I've decided to choose. So if you're in the position today where you complete all the kind of drawing, pattern choosing, shape choosing thing during the lesson, you may want to start taking some photographs today, which will then lead you on to the further responses in lessons to come. It's worth saying as well that the photographs that you're taking, if you do take any photographs, you can print them out and you can sort of cut them out and stick them into your sketchbook and things. So if you are taking photographs on your phone, keep them. You don't necessarily have to print them out in today's lesson. That's okay. That can wait till next time. But yeah, just consider these as potential things to go into your sketchbook, and also think about all the principles and concepts that Richard Barnes's brief was talking about. So the last photographic brief that you did, thinking about close-ups, thinking about unusual angles, thinking about interesting, innovative ways of using your camera. The point of that whole brief was to teach you approaches to photography that you can keep on using through the project. So here is a chance straight away to use some of those ideas again, but this time in response to the found shape from your sketchbook pages.